Call to Worship by Reverend Gretchen Halley. This world goes too fast to say all the stories that fill our lives. We struggle for words and the friends that would listen, that would witness this much beauty, this relentless loss, this courage to continue on claiming confidence and joy. Here in this place, let us mark time as if it is our friend, not running away, but offering itself with a new abundance like a gift, ready to offer healing and mercy in the breathing together and the silence, in the paying attention, in the music, and in the mystery. Not everything can be fixed in an hour. Not everything can be forgiven or saved, but here we remember that this is how we begin, moment by moment, making our lives one choice, one spark of hope, one willing yes at a time.
Good morning. Today is Groundhog Day. It's also Super Bowl Sunday. Not going to preach about that. It's also Candlemas, which is a holiday that marks the halfway point between the winter solstice and the first day of spring, if I'm not mistaken. So lots of things happening today. But for the purposes of this sermon, today is Groundhog Day. I'm sure you're all familiar with the tradition where there's a large squirrel that comes out of his hole and tells us if we're going to have more winter or an early spring. Strange tradition, but okay. For the record, this morning the groundhog did not see his shadow, so apparently we're going to have an early spring, which kind of holds up. If you look at the weather right now, it's not been that cold. We haven't had a lot of snow, so maybe he got it right. Who knows? So I love Groundhog Day, but actually not the day. I love the movie. Oh, good. This is going to go really well. So raise your hand if you know the film I'm talking about. Made in 1993, if you can believe that, with Bill Murray. Okay. So if you haven't seen it, now you know what you need to do when you go home today. And I'll fill you in a little bit as we go along. I've seen this movie, gosh, a couple hundred times, literally. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, yeah, good. I'm not alone. And it's hilarious, and I love it. I love Bill Murray. My family has several running jokes around this film. I think second only to The Princess Bride is our favorite film of all time. So I love this film for many reasons, but I also love it because honestly, it never fails to teach me something about what it means to be human and what it means to struggle. So in the movie, there's a Pittsburgh weatherman named Phil, that's the Bill Murray character, and he's kind of a cynical and ego-driven, narcissistic kind of person. Maybe you know someone like that in your life. And he travels to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to report on their annual Groundhog Day festival. Punxsutawney is a real place. The report I just gave you was from the actual groundhog, also named Phil, in Punxsutawney this morning. True story. So what happens is Phil gets trapped there in a day that keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. Groundhog Day. He wakes up every morning at 6 a.m. when the alarm goes off, and it's Groundhog Day, again and again and again. So he goes out, he sees the same people, walking in the same place, wearing the same clothes, having the same conversations, and he's trapped, and he cannot figure out how to get out. Even through death, because at one point he tries that. So he cycles through all of this frustration and anger and despair, as I'm sure you can imagine if you were trapped in a similar situation, and he's unable to accept the fact that forces beyond his control are keeping him here in this day and in this place, forces that he can't change and that he cannot escape. So there's a crucial scene in the movie where he's, I would say, probably at one of his lowest points, and he's sitting in a bar next to a couple townies who are pretty drunk. And they're talking, and Phil says to them, well, what would you do if you were stuck in one place and and everything you did was exactly the same from day to day, and nothing mattered, what would you do? And the guy sitting next to him pauses for a minute and goes, well, that pretty much sums it up for me. It's very funny, yes. It's also a very tragic line. So that's the point when the movie starts to get me, because who can say that they haven't felt trapped at some point and in some way by their life? Hopefully not as much as that guy at the bar, but I felt that way. Have you felt that way? Sometimes that you're trapped in the routine, in the day-to-day, that nothing changes and nothing matters. So that's the thing about being human. At least for us now, being human and having a human life is one of repetition. So we wake up, we need food, we need coffee, we take a shower, we get dressed, we go to work, we take our kids to school. Even if you love your work and you love your kids, which I'm sure all of you do, it can have a grind to it, can it? Feels like you're just doing the same thing day after day after day. I feel that. Not all the time, but enough. And if I'm paying attention, I can actually get really cynical about that grind too. I often feel like I work for my calendar instead of my calendar working for me. You feel that too sometimes? Yeah. And of course, there's more to it than just the daily grind of going to work or going to school or taking care of our families. There's a grind to so many of our struggles too. Maybe you have a tense relationship with one of your family members that just doesn't ever seem to be getting better. You keep running into the same issues over and over again. Maybe you have a difficult boss or a work situation that just seems unsolvable. Maybe there's an illness in your family, an illness that doesn't seem to be getting better, that's really hard to bear witness to. And even if none of that is true, how about being human in this world and being awake and alive to all the struggles that are going on around us, to the partisan mess in Washington, which I can't even begin to wrap my head around, to the ever-warming of our climate, to institutional racism and transphobia. I mean, the list just goes on and on. There's never a lack of things to feel like we are struggling with. And what are the things that occupy your mind? Are you making a list right now in your head of some of the things that you struggle with every day? And how many of you right now are thinking, God, sometimes I just want to throw my hands up because it feels like nothing I can do matters. Nothing I can do can change the situation. Like Phil, like that guy sitting next to him, what do we do when we feel like nothing we can do matters? When the world feels too big and too broken? When we wake up day after day having to chip away at the same struggles that just don't seem to be getting better? That's real. In our own way, that's real for every single one of us. And it hurts. For me, it hurts getting stuck in that place. And I see myself in Phil, who's also stuck in the same place. Stuck in the place where we struggle and fail and struggle and fail and struggle and fail to make the world look more like the world that we want it to be. The world that we want to have for our kids, the world we want for each other. So like Phil, I get stuck in that place. Like Phil, I try again and again, and I fail again and again. But then one day, in the movie, Phil stops. I'll spare you the details around that. You really should watch it because it's genius. But he lifts his head up from his own struggle and starts to take in the world around him. He starts paying attention to the people in the town, the ones who have been right next to him, right in front of him this whole time, day after day after day. He actually starts to see them. He starts engaging in their lives, helping them and learning from them. He develops another routine, a different routine, and this I love, where he goes around every day helping people. He helps the same lady who gets a flat tire, because again, the same day is repeating itself over and over again. So the same lady who gets a flat tire, the same guy who chokes on a piece of meat he gives the Heimlich to day after day after day. He keeps catching the same kid who falls out of the same tree day after day after day. And he maintains this routine for God knows how long. The movie doesn't tell you how many days it actually lasts, but it's a long time. So in this process, he learns a lot about the people around him. Not only that they're there and they have their own struggles, but that he is in relationship with them, he is connected with them. He sees their humanity in a way he never could before because he was buried in his own struggles, in his own situation. All he could see was what he was facing, not what the world around him was struggling with. And because this is a movie, he falls in love. He falls in love with Rita, who is played by Andy McDowell in the film, who is his TV producer that's in this town with him on this assignment. My favorite scene in the movie, I have a lot of favorites, but this is probably the best one, takes place in the town diner. And now Phil's been at this day after day for a while now. And he's learned so much about everyone around him, and he's trying to explain to Rita what's happening to him. And in doing so, he tells her all of the things that he's learned about her. Because in all of the Groundhog Days that he has lived through, he's learned about her family and her dreams, her fears and her longings. He has walked and talked with her for days and days and days. And he tells her about all of the things he knows to be true about her and why he cares for her. And he ends it with, "When you stand in the snow, you look like an angel." Roger Ebert. Does everybody remember Siskel and Ebert? He wrote a review of this movie that I love. I wish I could make you all read it. In his review, he wrote about this scene, and he says, "The point is not that he has come to love Rita. The point is that Phil has learned to see the angel." He has learned to see the angel. This is the point where the movie really cracks me open. It usually makes me cry when I watch it. To take someone so cynical and mean and self-serving like Phil and watch him evolve into someone who learns to see the angel, that he has awoken to the beauty of his life, the meaningfulness of connection, and the possibility of hope. That's what I need to be reminded of today and every day. That is why I love this movie. Angel doesn't necessarily have to mean a heavenly spirit with wings, although if that image works for you, I say go for it. To me, the angel represents connection, seeing the spark of divinity in another person, having that spark of divinity reflected back at you, stepping into your place in the interconnected web of existence, feeling like you belong, knowing that you belong, and that you are in the presence of wonder and mystery and grace. It's like the story that Heather told this morning. I love how Sophia is entrenched in the struggle of getting ready for a visit from God, making all the things that God could possibly want to eat or drink, cleaning the house, getting a welcome mat. I mean, who doesn't feel caught up in that story of trying to be perfect, trying to do all the things? Talk about a daily struggle. I can relate to that, certainly. I hope that you might be able to as well. And alongside all of that struggle, the angel shows up for her too. The angel shows up as the mayor who was walking by, and the kids from her class. She's got her head down, chipping away at getting ready for this visit from God, trying to be perfect, trying to get it all done. But she's surrounded by the love of her community, and it's only later, when she gets the second note, that she actually realizes that she was in the presence of God the whole time. That's the thing about struggle. It often tells us, so often tells us that we're alone, that we're trapped in this cycle that will never end, that nothing we do matters, and that it's our burden to bear, all by ourselves. That's how Phil felt. That's how I sometimes feel. Maybe that's how you feel sometimes too. So when you're in the struggle, when you're chipping away at your day-to-day, whatever it is that you're having to face, whatever is not getting better, whatever you really don't know what to do with, I invite you to just pick up your head for a second and look around you. Look who's with you. Look who's next to you. Look at the company that you keep. Look at your family. Look at your community. Look at this community. You are not alone in this. Everybody is chipping away at their own struggles, and we're all doing it right next to each other. Everyone feels what you feel. Everyone is in it, just like you are. Like TNT just sang for us in that beautiful, beautiful song, we are at a very, very crowded table. So you are not alone in this. You are never, never alone in this. So for me, that's the angel that I want to see every day. That's the angel that I want you to remember too. In those moments when you want to throw up your hands and say, does anything I do actually matter? I need you to remember that angel. I need you to know that there is that spark of the divine in you, and that you're a part of an interconnected web, that you belong, that your life is bigger. It's so much bigger than the struggle. That who you are matters to a whole lot of people. That who you are matters, period. And that you are loved beyond measure. When I'm in the struggle, you are the angel to me. You are the ones that remind me that the world is much bigger than my daily grind, than whatever I have my head down trying to solve. You remind me that alongside the struggle is always the opportunity to recognize our belonging, to embrace and be embraced by our community, to be loved. We're all the angel, friends, all of us. And my hope and my prayer is that you can see that too. May it be so. Amen.